Hello, I'm Elton Robinson with your May 13th grain and oilseed update. Soybean futures rose this week on the news that increased exports would likely eat into supply. Corn and wheat futures followed suit, even though supplies are still burdensome in those crops. Poor weather in some South American countries could hurt production there, and their exports could tail off, beefing up prospects for U.S. exports, experts say. Soybean futures are up 25% so far this year, while corn is up 3.3%. According to USDA's crop progress reports for the week ending May 8th, 64% of the U.S. corn crop is now planted, 14 percentage points ahead of last year at this time. Missouri, Tennessee, North Carolina, and Minnesota are at 90% planted or above. Iowa is 80% complete and Illinois 78%, both far ahead of last year's pace. 27% of the U.S. corn crop has emerged. 23% of the U.S. soybean crop is planted, which is 7 percentage points ahead of last year. 30% of the U.S. sorghum crop is in the ground, which is about on pace with last year. 27% of the peanut crop is planted, slightly ahead of last year's pace. 82% of the U.S. rice crop is planted compared to an average of 68%. 67% of the crop has emerged and 57% is listed in good to excellent condition. 57% of the U.S. wheat crop is headed, which is ahead of last year's pace. 62% is listed in good to excellent condition. For the second straight week, beef and pork exports set marketing year highs, according to USDA. This summary of exports is based on reports from exporters for the week ending May 5th. Although unchanged from the week prior, beef exports of 12,600 metric tons was a marketing year high, with Japan, South Korea, Mexico, Canada, and Hong Kong as primary destinations. Pork exports of 23,500 metric tons were up 2% from the previous week, with Mexico, China, Japan, South Korea, and Canada as primary customers. Wheat exports of 447,000 metric tons were up 16% from the previous week and 12% from the prior 4-week average. Most went to the Philippines, Nigeria, Yemen, Japan, Venezuela, and South Korea. Corn exports of 1.14 million metric tons were down 7% from the previous week and 1% from the 4-week average. Major customers were Mexico, Japan, Colombia, Algeria, Taiwan, South Korea, and Peru. Grain sorghum exports of 63,000 metric tons were down 73% from the previous week and 61% from the prior 4-week average. The destinations were China, which took nearly 50,000 metric tons, and Mexico. Rice exports of 59,000 metric tons were down 35% from the previous week and 15% from the prior 4-week average. Japan, Honduras, and Mexico were among customers. Soybean exports of 217,000 metric tons were down 29% from the previous week and 31% from the prior 4-week average, with Indonesia, Mexico, Japan, Malaysia, and Vietnam as destinations. Soybean meal exports of 203,000 metric tons were unchanged from the previous week, with several South American countries and Canada as primary destinations. Soybean oil exports of 3,000 metric tons were down 19% from the previous week and 70% from the prior 4-week average. Destinations included Mexico and Canada. Well, that's it for this week's report. I'm Elton Robinson. See you next time.